Well, hi. This is day 8, I guess, and I had another really good day. Actually, it was a fabulous day on the bike. It just illustrates the other side of the joys of riding. We talked yesterday about how great the scenery was, and exploring the unknown roads and just the basic joy of discovery, I guess, more than anything else, and the chance of coming across beautiful scenery or arresting landscape or something that just takes your breath away. Today was a completely different kind of ride. I rode from Lamar, Colorado, where I spent the night, and then east into Kansas and all the way to almost 2/3 of the way across Kansas. And it was absolutely nothing along the way that was spectacular in any way, really. There wasn't any scenery. I didn't really take any photographs. But it just showed that when you're riding it and you're alone with your thoughts and kind of out in the landscape and out in the country, various things will catch your attention and start you down a road of thought that can be very, very entertaining and hopefully illuminating. One thing that struck me today and yesterday, I guess, and this will come as no surprise, I suppose, to anybody, but rural America is dying. You don't see it quite as much if you stay on the interstate highways, because those route you only to kind of thriving and vibrant way stations and to urban centers. And you also don't see it even on the back roads of the far west, because there's really been not much along those roads ever, even from the beginning of the early days as part of the United States. But that's not true once you start taking the back roads into Colorado and then into the Midwest. The landscape and the roadside is just littered with abandoned buildings that are dilapidated and in some cases shuttered, in other cases simply clearly abandoned. And you go by farm after farm after farm that is falling into ruin because it's not any longer occupied, and it doesn't look like the land is being cultivated. So the huge number of businesses that have failed, and a lot of people that used to live out in these locations that obviously no longer could make a living doing it. So it just strikes you at how withered rural America is becoming. And every little town you go through, and you go through every little town when you're on one of these back roads, even a road such as Highway 50, is filled with shuttered buildings and closed businesses and places for rent and going out of business sales and dilapidated structures, and it's just kind of a very sad commentary about what's happening to rural America. I mean, I don't know if it takes somebody a lot smarter than me to figure out why, or whether there's even anything that can be done about it. It just seems that a whole way of life that in large measure is really the kind of touchstone for our culture is disappearing. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. A lot of other things strike you too. They must have figured out how to get these wind generators to breed, because the last time I was through this part of the country, there were only a handful of them, and now there's literally dozens and dozens and dozens. Seems like everywhere you turn there's a wind generator. And of course, I think they're ugly as hell, but I suppose that we need to do something to try and get us less dependent on oil or fossil fuels. So I mean, they're great as long as they work, I suppose. That got me to thinking, you look at them and you wonder, how did they come up with a design for these things? And the math, of course, is beyond my capability to say, okay, how would you figure out how would be the best number of blades they have? All of the big generators seem to have three, while the windmills in Holland seem to have four, and other windmills that you see around the country from the old days are always more than three blades. And I don't know whether the shape of the blades is the same or whether the wind is actually pushing on the blades, or whether they use a aircraft air wing type shape in order to create a vacuum that's pulling the blade around in addition to the force of the wind that's actually creating the tension or the force to move it in a circle and then drive the generator. And you also wonder then about the math. Okay, well then, what's the optimum number of blades? How long should they be? What shape should they be? How high should the structure be? And it's just amazing that we have the capability of trying to figure that out and actually come up with an answer. My granddaughter Brooke is pretty talented in math. I just hope that someday she takes it under her study and is able to someday develop that into a skill that allows her as a professional to determine the answers to some of these questions that are going to be so critical to us in the future. The other thing that you start seeing is that trucks are a lot more aerodynamic than they ever been before, because I can remember in the old days when I first started riding that every time you meet a truck, you'd kind of tense up because you knew you were going to be hit with this giant wall of air as soon as it got by you. And now, most of these trucks are so streamlined that you don't even notice any difference between their passing and the passing of an automobile. Although it's shocking, occasionally you'll run into one that isn't got the right cowling and the right aerodynamic configuration, and it damn near knocks you off the bike because it's so unexpected, because it's so infrequent these days. Also along the way, you're starting to see a few of the oil wells that are running from all the way from North Dakota down into Texas, and they sit there with the single walker arm type pump just pumping away, and you wonder how long it's going to be before we diminish that resource completely. I hope we leave the planet in at least a reasonable shape for our kids and our grandkids to have a chance of establishing a way of life that's not toxic to the environment in which we live. Anyway, I had a great day today. I'm tired. I did a little over 300 miles, but we had a great day and I had a wonderful time.